So you guys are going to be stars of the Pipes Magazine radio show. So we're going to be stars. That's all I'm saying. Brian Levine, the host of the Pipes Magazine radio show, and quite a cool guy. And the reason why Disney pipes costs over $1 million. So, Brian, welcome.
David, Dorian, thanks for having me back. So yeah, this is going to be fun. Anytime I get to talk about the mouse is always fun. Except you can't smoke there anymore, which sucks. So, except at Disneyland Paris and Tokyo Disneyland and Shanghai and Hong Kong. So for those of you overseas, you get to smoke there. For those of us here in the United States of America, you don't get to smoke there. Yeah. So anyway, let me. So first of all, we'll take probably the first 45 minutes or so to get through the Disney tobacco collection that I have. And I'll take questions on that. And then what I'll do is I'll switch over and I'll change a few things here for about 2 minutes. And then you guys get to ask me any questions you want and we'll record it. I'll record it exactly the same way I do any guests that appear on the Pipes Magazine radio show. Start thinking about your questions because I guess I'm with you through the Zoom part of the meeting. So those of you on the Zoom part, I can hear your questions. Think about your questions going all the way back to my time with working at Dunhill, working for Hulk O'Rourke on the import side, Peter Stokeby, the Trade Association, Brigham, Sutliff. Any questions pipe and tobacco related. There are no silly questions. And if you think it's already been asked before and you're too embarrassed to ask it, don't think that. Because if you're thinking about it and you want to know about it, odds are other people do. And if you think I've answered it before, well, guess what? Odds are I have answered just about every question. And there's a pretty good chance my answer will have changed in the last few years or few weeks or few months, or the fact that my wife had me up at 5:30 this morning to do a yard sale may make my mood a little different. So my answer may be completely angry and unintelligible, which unintelligible is not a reach for me. I tend to hit that all the time. But yeah, so start thinking about those. We'll do probably about a 40-minute recording for the radio show.
And if I can jump in there for the guys over there on YouTube and on Facebook, I'm watching the stream. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in there. I'll make sure I ask them for you to Brian. And so you can be a part of the whole show as well. And if any of you guys were not here for the first time that Brian came, and you're like, I don't know the backstory, like, go ahead and ask those questions too.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah. Sir, the floor is yours. But first, what are you smoking today?
Well, this is a pipe and it's got tobacco in the big hole. No, I regularly get asked what my old standby favorite tobacco is. And it's a McClellan called Blakeney's Best Acadian Ribbon. And I've always told this story since I came out of the closet as to what my favorite tobacco was, primarily because I was no longer working for the competition. But this is a blend that McClellan came out with in 2005, and the entire Blakeney's Best line did not do very well. This one in particular was the lowest selling tinned Virginia Perique that McClellan ever did. And I ended up consuming 1/4 of the production that they ever made. So I am one of those arrogant elitist snobs that is smoking a 2006 canned McClellan Virginia Perique, and that's my everyday. This pipe is what has now been coined by Jody Davis as the workhorse billiard, because this is the new version of, do I have the other pipe here? No. This is a new version of a older pipe of Jody's that I picked up and I travel the world with. So Jody now calls this his workhorse billiard, and I'm now abusing it and beating it up like a workhorse billiard should be. So did that answer that? Probably longer than you wanted, too. A little backstory. Disneyland opened in 1955, and the premise that Walt Disney wanted was he wanted some sort of an amusement or a place where both parents and children could go and there would be entertainment for all ages at this amusement. He didn't know what to call it. So he got tired of going to the park and the kids would ride the carousel and he'd sit on a park bench. So he wanted some sort of amusement where he could have this entertainment. When Disneyland opened in 1955, Main Street itself was a representation of the early 1900s traditional Main Street USA. So when you walk into Main Street, there's a flagpole in the middle of town square. There's a city hall, there's an opera house, a train station, there's a police station, a fire station. And the shops on Main Street were, I mean, these are actual shops that were there on opening day of 1955. There was a meat and deli shop where you could actually buy meats, cuts of meats. There was a Wurlitzer piano store where you could buy a Wurlitzer piano. There was an Upjohn pharmacy. My favorite one lasted for about 2 or 3 years, and it was called the Wizard of Bras. And yes, you could go to Disneyland and get, they had this guy that did custom made bras in Hollywood for all the movie stars. And he opened up a small store on Main Street where you could go in and get a custom fitted bra right there at Disneyland. My favorite shop was the tobacco shop. The tobacco shop at Disneyland opened on opening day 1955 and it closed in May of 1990. The tobacco shop itself was about 200 square feet and was a full service, full line tobacco shop. And I've got some examples of some of the basics, but not only did they sell cigarettes, cigars, chewing tobacco, pipe tobacco, they sold pipes, accessories. It was, if you looked at what a 1900s Main Street tobacco shop was, that was it. When they opened up the Magic Kingdom in Florida at Walt Disney World, they opened up with another version of the tobacco shop. And I guess I'll just start. So, and that shop closed in 1988 and was merged into part of the other shops then. And then by the end of the 90s, they stopped selling any tobacco visible in the parks. And then right around 2005, 6 or 7, they took all the tobacco out of the parks. You can still buy tobacco products at the hotels, at their gift shops, but it's all hidden under the counter. But I guess we'll start off with the heavy hitters, the less interesting to us because they're not pipe related. But
while Brian's pulling that out, let me comment on some of the guys who haven't been here very much, who are on a mobile device, like a tablet or a phone or something like that. And if you haven't mastered Zoom in all this time during the pandemic, there's a couple of tricks there. You can finger swipe across the screen to see different views. So you might want to just finger swipe from left to right to go back to the screen where Brian's probably front and center. But if you want to scroll through to see any of the other gallery, that's how you do it. All right, back to you, sir.
So these are just some loose cigar bands that were used for Disneyland because they had their own private label brand of cigars at Disneyland. So you could go in and get Disneyland cigars. I think my favorite, besides the fact you can still find, this is just a little gas filled, what brand is this? Gas filled Japan something, but they sold lighters with the castle on them. You want to spend some real money, find a Disneyland lighter, a Disneyland Zippo lighter that's unstruck still in the box. So they had branded lighters, they had accessories, they had Donald Duck lighters. So you had all that. If you went to Walt Disney World, the Walt Disney World tobacco shop was much more into branding. And one of the things they did, and this dates to about 1972, is it's a box of 25 cigars. I'm trying to get the camera framed right there. These are made in Miami, Florida, and of course they claim Cuban seed, blah 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 blah. But inside the box is my favorite part of it. And those of you that may have bought a box of cigars know that there's usually a piece of wax paper. This piece of wax paper down at the bottom basically says, Walt Disney World proudly offers to our guests the very finest cigars available, entirely handmade by Cuban craftsmen of carefully selected and blended tobacco, properly cured in age. Exclusive cabinet packing and selecting assures exquisite aroma, the very ultimate in cigar smoking enjoyment. Here's the best part of it. Are you ready for this? This is the Walt Disney Company, which is anti-tobacco and is now editing tobacco out of their classics. Our cigars may be ordered by mail by addressing your inquiry to the Main Street Tobacco Shop, Walt Disney World, P.O. Box 40, Lake Buena Vista, Florida, and the zip code. There you go. So there's proof that the Walt Disney Company was in the mail order tobacco business. So this piece in particular just makes me giggle. And now they're trying to edit all that history out. But yeah, so you could go into the tobacco shop, buy a box of 25 cigars, and if you really liked them and you got home, well, then you could turn around and write them a check and stamp it and mail it to them, and they'd send you a box of cigars. The hardest thing to find that I've ever found is who remembers Virginia Oval cigarettes? This is a pack of Virginia Oval king-size cigarettes with the Walt Disney World logo silk screened on the front. And the silk screen is on the back of their logo. The price tag was $1.50. And I think these are copyright dated 1971 Walt Disney Productions. So we know that that's probably when they did these, because Disney was nuts about updating their copyrights. The best part, here we have the Walt Disney World logo on the inside of the pack again. And then because this is the only one that I've ever seen where I actually have the cigarettes, and I'm going to get real close because the cigarettes actually have the Walt Disney World Global D logo on the cigarette paper. So these are Mickey Mouse cigarettes, and they're real, 100% Walt Disney World sold these. And this is kind of the kind of stuff that the tobacco shop would do. And you could get Virginia Oval cigarettes from G.A. Georgopoulos and Company anywhere, but to get them private labeled with the Walt Disney World name on there, well, that's kind of pricey. I've never actually smoked any of these because when I got them, they were bone dry and crispy. And, but yeah, anyway, there's proof Mickey Mouse cigarettes. Now onto the stuff that we really like. And I've got a few more examples, but I've got more examples that I can pull out, but I've got the, in the tobacco shop for us pipe guys, you could go in and buy a tin of Prince Albert. And that one was priced $1.20 for the metal tin of Prince Albert, which they sold right off the shelf. for my dear friends at Sutliff. There it is, Edward G. Robinson mixture. And this was sold, I have no idea when, but it was sold for 60 cents at Disneyland. So you could go in and get branded pipe tobacco. You could get tins and pouches. And then what they did was they had a bulk program. You could go in and get a bulk tobacco, and they had basically 3 different styles. But you could walk in and you could get either a pouch, a small can, or I also have some of the large cans. And then they would hand pack it right there for you. The blends came in exactly what you would think, the basics. Here's a mildly aromatic. Excuse me. Here's a special blend non-aromatic. And then those that know me and know how much I love this is the only Latakia blend I have in my house, because this is a Disneyland special Latakia blend pouch. I got lucky enough that these are the original pouches with the original tobaccos. I've put a little tape on them to keep them closed. But this one, I believe I can get open. Yeah. The tobacco's bone dry crispy, but there it is. All 3 of these are full, and I got them full. So I didn't buy them myself, but I found somebody who was selling them. And again, here's on the pouch, there's the mailing address for the tobacco shop at Disneyland. So they were, again, promoting their mailing address and promoting where to get tobacco and how to order it. But again, if you walked in, say you were there with the family for the day and you were wandering around, you could walk in and you could hand select out of their bulk tobaccos that were custom blended for them, which means they were probably in the 60s, they were probably World Tobacco or maybe some Lane Limited blends at that point, maybe some US tobacco blends. But you could get a custom blended tobacco and then get it hand packed in a 1.5 ounce pouch, an 8 ounce can, and I've got some 12 or 16 ounce cans over there that if you really want to see them, I can bring them. So they had tobacco too. I mean, you could literally go in there and get tobacco. Disneyland itself did not have a lot of branded pipes, but this one and this one are the only 2 that I have that are actually stamped from Disneyland. And I got to get my big mitts out of the way. Let me get over the microphone there. These 2 are Sheraton International selections, and Sheraton, the International selection, was kind of their rejects. And if you bought them by the gross, you could stamp your name on them. So this one on the bottom has Disneyland, and the stamping's really light. And this one has another Disneyland stamp down there. But again, so what I did was when I started doing when I started the collection, I wanted to find out who the manufacturers were. So I did a lot of research, and it's really hard to tell, but there's let me see if I can do it with the light on it. It says made in London, England, and the stampings are identical to what Sheraton was doing back in those days. And then if you look at that one, that's just a pure Sheraton shape. So through my years in the hobby, I was able to start to figure out what factories were they buying from. Walt Disney World was a little more prolific in the manufacturing of logoed pipes. This is kind of a good example of what a basic Walt Disney World pipe might look like. And this is just an Italian rusticated pipe with a decorative ferrule that's, some sort of plastic. And the process was the Disney company, the Walt Disney World tobacco shop would have a buyer that would go to the sales reps and say, all right, you sell us tobacco products. We need a bid for, 600. What's your best prices? And give us some bids. So they would then go to their importers and find out. And then they would send them the stamp. And this one is marked made in Italy, because it came over with the Italy stamp on it. And then Walt Disney World put their own stamp on it locally. But this is the essential quality of this is a basket. It's a basket pipe or a board pipe that you might find in a smoke shop. They're not, they're not first run great product. But again, for us as pipe smokers, if we go to Walt Disney World with the family and the family wants to get a Mickey Mouse t-shirt and balloons and stuff, well, here's our adult gift. We're going to pick out a souvenir that's for us, and then we could pick it out, buy some tobacco right there, load it, pack it, and walk right down Main Street smoking that pipe wherever you wanted, except if you got in line. They always had a no smoking while in line policy. But this one's just a no-name Italy. This one is a completely unknown panel sandblasted billiard with a square shank that I have a feeling I know where it was made, because I'll show you in the next one. This is a completely unsmoked, made in the Camoys Cadogan factory, probably right around the era that they owned, that Camoys owned Barling, Sassini, and a handful of other smaller brands. This one, again, unsmoked, completely stamped. And the best part is they started using a hot dye stamp for some of the Mickey logos on the stems. So you can find a good amount of these with Mickey logos right on the stem. So you can have a Mickey Mouse sticking at you while you're walking around Walt Disney World smoking your brand new pipe. I'm often asked what is my favorite pipe in the collection, and this is it. This one took a little bit of research. And so what I started doing was looking through online old pipe factory catalogs to find shape charts. This one's stamped on the bottom, Walt Disney World, made in England, shape 343. All right, so I started looking at it, and just by the shape of it, I was looking at it going, okay, English billiard, yeah, all right, 343. And I poked around and started chasing after it and discovered that it was made by Parker. This is the Parker billiard, made by Parker during the time that Dunhill owned them. So this one's stamped Walt Disney World. And then the more special part of it is, because it came out of the Dunhill factory, I'm going to get out of the way a little bit. Those are inlaid drilled Mickey. That's an inlaid drilled Mickey logo, similar to the same way they drilled the Dunhill white dot. And this is the only one I've ever seen like this. And it's just my favorite. So I always tell my wife, I said, look, if there's a fire in the house, I'm going after the pipe first, and you try to figure your way to the door. Because I'm more worried about getting this pipe. I can find more wives. She's not here, so I'm safe. She won't kill me. But that's, the basics of the pipes, and kind of let me give you a little bit of background on the collection. Started because I really couldn't afford a whole bunch of real fancy straight grain high dollar pipes, and I wanted to have a bit of a collection. And I started buying these for, $10-20 at pipe shows. I'd find them on eBay for $20-25. And then there was an article written on the collection by Chuck Stanion in Pipes and Tobaccos magazine in 2006. And I have not been able to afford my own collection since then, because all of a sudden everybody wanted one. I now have the entire collection is on Facebook at Disney Tobacciana Collection. It's an open fan page group that You can go look anytime you want. You don't have to like it or sign up or whisper any secret question in my ear to get in there and look at it. But everything that I have is there, including all the ashtrays that I've collected, the matchbooks. For the first time in a long time, it's actually all on display. I'll tilt the camera so everybody hold on. Here comes an earthquake. But it's all on display right there, including that custom pipe board that's up on the top. That's a rotating Mickey head pipe board that I made. But I wanted to have a collection of something that was unique. I grew up in California, going to Disneyland all the time, and then I worked at Disneyland from 1986 to 1990, and I remember the day that the tobacco shop closed, because I could go into the tobacco shop there and buy cigarettes with my employee discount. They were cheaper than buying them at the cheapest places in any stores. So I was going in there buying cigarettes at the tobacco shop, and then they closed. Let me show you a couple of other fun things that we have, and then I'll end the real representation the real part of this with my favorite piece. This is your Disneyland guidebook that you'd get when you'd walk in, and it had a basic map of the park and blah, 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 blah. And this one, under guest services, where was it? Is this the one that has it? Maybe I grabbed the wrong one. Yeah, I probably grabbed the wrong one. Again, somebody made me get up at 5:30 this morning to do a yard sale. And she kept all the money, too. Here's Walt Disney's Disneyland. Here are the shops. First aid. And I find the... Anyway, on the guide maps that they used to give out, it would show, your favorite tobacco products available here, or whatever they used to call it. Here's summer 1974 Disneyland. Main Street, USA. There's the tobacco shop listed in the on the Main Street listing. Anyway, we'll get EPCOT Center in Florida. EPCOT actually had 2 locations to buy tobacco at one point. One of them was more traditional, and it was up at the front at the gift shop. The other one was in the United Kingdom pavilion, where they had a very small tobacco section of pipes and accessories. And I'll read you the way they wrote it is hysterical. This is all in the time before political correctness. Where is Japan, Germany, Morocco, the United Kingdom? His Lordship, tobacco and men's furnishings. It was a small store that was partly sponsored by the tobacconist from London called Desmond Souter, and he had a very small counter in there that had men's furnishings and tobacco products in the UK pavilion. It was the only one of the international pavilions that actually had a dedicated tobacco area, and they sold pipes and accessories there. You could literally, how many of us have walked by this, the standard little 2-pipe stand, little 2-pipe wooden rest, and looked at it at a pipe show or on eBay and goes, who the hell wants that? Or, yeah, I think I need that, and I'll throw it out on my front yard. Well, I got all excited about it because of one little sticker on the back. They sold pipe rests and all kinds of accessories, whatever they thought they could sell, that they put it in their tobacco shop and sold it, including this is one of those leather belt holder pipe holders that people that, back in the old days, we used to sell them. That one's stamped Walt Disney World right there. So you could get a leather belt holder for your pipe and then just, put it on your belt and stick your pipe in there and walk around with it. They were not afraid of showing kids what it was like to smoke because, well, this is a Davy Crockett Indian Explorer pipe. It's actually drilled and everything, so you can make air go through it, but this was sold to kids for them to play with. And this was found for me by one of the listeners of the Pipes Magazine radio show. This is a much bigger version of the same idea, and this one just says Disneyland, Walt Disney Productions, and I've seen pictures of the full set where it actually had a little plastic loop so you could sling it over your shoulder, and it had a feather on it, and it came with, you could get a war bonnet and a hatchet. You could buy guns at Disneyland, toy guns, but you can't do that anymore. And you definitely cannot go walking around and getting a thing that might actually smoke tobacco out of it. Ooh, that'd be so bad. But again, so this is just a small sample of it. My favorite thing that I have in the collection, and this doesn't stay sitting in a dresser drawer or anything. But because of the people that I know in the hobby, Bill Feuerbach, who is the SM Frank K. Woody Yellow Bowl company, this is a purchase order from Disneyland to SM Frank for K. Woody Medicos, or Yellow Bowls and Medicos. And here is the matching invoice from SM Frank to Disneyland for said purchase order. $2.23 for a Yellow Bowl Ebony, $2.68 for a Yellow Bowl Nova. A Medico Lancer was $2.23. And just in the quick math, there's about 144 pipes on there that they ordered. And then he was nice enough to give me a whole nother set. So there's a second set of an invoice and a purchase order from Disneyland to the SM Frank Company dated 1985, showing where twice a year they were ordering grosses of pipes. An average price of $3 a pipe. This invoice is for $1,170 to Disneyland for pipes. So the Walt Disney Company, which will now not let you smoke anywhere in their parks, was heavily in the tobacco business, and was not real friendly about talking about it anymore. But yeah, so anyway, that is a taste of the collection. Again, everything is on the Facebook page at Disney Tobacciana Collection. You can go search it and find, it's all sitting there. There's proof that I am not a photographer by some of the pictures that are in there.
By the way, we'll be posting the link to Brian's page on the YouTube video and also on the Virtual Pipe Club group page. So if you can't find it, like Stephen, you can just go to the link and go right to his page there.
So yeah, and I guess some of the more common questions that I get is, no, nothing is for sale. Yes, I want more, but the only time I really chase real hard after something is if it's unique to the collection. And right now I have 64 briar pipes, or when I say briar pipes, that includes the Rop cherry wood pipes that I have, and then the Meerschaum line bowls that I have. And they're actual Rop pipes made in France. Just instead of saying Rop on the bottom, they say Walt Disney World. the hardest ones to find are the Disneyland ones, because they just didn't do that much with the Disneyland name on it. But Walt Disney World was just prolific with stamping their names. And again, Walt Disney World would either send out, the purchase order would go out with the die stamp, or they would receive it in, and then I've heard rumors that FGT, which used to be based in Tampa, would stamp the pipes for them. FGT made all the Edwards Algerian briars, and I have a handful of Algerian briar pipes with the Disney World logo on it. So with them being in Tampa, it would make sense that they would do a lot of that work. The only one I smoke on a regular basis is this one. And that's because I had that nasty old silly Sheraton stem replaced by a friend of mine with an acrylic smoking stem that actually lines up correctly and will not oxidize. And it's just a good solid smoker. I don't take it out of the house with me too much. So this is not the pipe I end up doing yard work with. That's what I save these handmade American Jody Davis things for. Yeah, I can replace these. This, good luck. But yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, ideas?
Brian, let me start off the questions, and then guys, if you haven't already formulated a question in your mind, Brian, or maybe popped in a little bit after we got started, Brian is going to invite us to ask questions that he can then use on his radio show. So we're all going to be able to be special guests on the Pipes Magazine radio show by virtue of our questions. So think about them, and the floor's open and sky's the limit. Brian.
Well, Brian, this is Sept from the Texas Pipe Club. Thank you. Second time I've got to see you. I enjoyed your presentation to us a few months back.
Wait, you came back anyway?
I did. Well, there's a question I didn't ask you then. I should have. Have you come across a pipe that's actually smoked by Walt Disney?
So Walt Disney, to the best of my knowledge and my research, quit smoking. He smoked a pipe in the 1920s. And then by the time he got out into Los Angeles in the late 1920s and started making money, he had switched over to cigarettes completely. There's only 2 pictures that I've seen of him with a pipe in his mouth, and both of them were during his Kansas City days. One was when he was working for the Kansas City Star as a cartoonist, and the other one was before he opened up the Laugh-O-Gram studio, or might have been during the Laugh-O-Gram studio. But he switched over to cigarettes once. Yeah, and it happened with a lot of people too. By the 30s, cigarettes became cheaper because they became mechanized, and they became a little more convenient for somebody that was on the go all the time. And Walt became a dedicated, sometimes 2 to 3 pack a day cigarette smoker. But he definitely wanted a tobacco shop on Main Street. That was one of his specified shops in the early designs. That, along with a candy shop and the Wizard of Bras, of course, because you need that too for some reason.
Brian, by the way, Sea Smoke Pipes is over on YouTube, and he says, "Thanks for having me on the podcast the other week. It was great."
Yeah. The weaver who's a potter.
I guess so. He asks, by the way, what was Disney's? Well, do you know? I mean, it sounds like you're casting way back, and you may not know this, but he says, what was Disney's favorite pipe tobacco?
Probably whatever was the cheapest.
I have one question, and it sort of does reflect one of the questions we had come up on YouTube over there. You said in the beginning that although you can't smoke in any of the U.S. parks, that you can still smoke in France and China and Japan.
Yeah.
Do they have tobacco shops in those parks?
No, but they have smoking areas inside the parks where you can go and sit down on a park bench and smoke. They used to have them here in the U.S. until about 1.5 years ago, and they just said no more, and we're going to ban them.
But you couldn't get a French stamped Disney pipe.
No, they stopped putting their name on any tobacco products probably right around the 1990s, late 80s, early 90s, when they started getting very politically correct.
Gotcha.
And more politically correct. And if you remember, in the early 90s, they started doing the diversity push of, we've got all these, and I hate to, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying this is what it is. We've got all these white Anglo-Saxon Protestants and heroes. Well, we need to have we need to treat, let's have Aladdin and he'll be the hero. So we've got we've got somebody from the Arab nations, and then you have further down the road, you have Lion King, which is African based, and then you start seeing stuff like Mulan and Moana and all that. So they start, worrying about that. It's even gotten to the point now where they're taking out the Splash Mountain ride and changing it to the Princess and the Frog, which is a New Orleans based story, and they're taking out the Song of the South characters because the movie The Song of the South is based on a pre-Civil War Southern plantation.
Just wanted to say hi, Brian. It's been a while.
Lowell, how are you?
Pretty good. Hanging in there. Still
Lowell,
on our...
Lowell and I go back to when I had a full head of hair.
Me too.
Yeah.
Been a while.
Yeah.
About 30-something years, I'd say. Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, do you want to make some changes to your recording setup, and then we'll jump into the questions and whatnot?
Yeah, give me a few seconds here. I'm gonna open up some different software, change my I'm gonna change my do. See, look, my do has been changed.
Brian, great to see you again. I got a couple questions for you, but before we get going, I just wanted to make a comment. It's a beautiful fall day out here in California, and I would have been smoking a briar, but I was smoking a clay this morning because I wanted to try this blend that I've never smoked. It's amazing to say that at this day and age. Peter Getz gifted me some early morning pipe. Thank you, Mr. Getz. This is excellent stuff. I wanted a clay run before I put it into a briar. And Brian, I want to thank you for giving me license to wear this Mickey Mouse shirt and actually mean it. By the way, nice shirt you got on there.
Thank you.
And I read the Chuck Stanion article from 2006. I'm not brown nosing.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody, well, my parents actually read it too. So that means 3 people.
And I just want to be absolutely clear on this. As an employee, Disney gave you a discount on their tobacco products.
Yeah, we got after you'd been there for 2 years, your discount went from 20% off of all merchandise to 35%. And it was off of everything except for precious metal jewelry and limited editions. So it was also at a time when Disney had Energizer was a sponsor of the Main Street Electrical Parade. So all batteries in the parks were Energizer. All film in the parks was Kodak. Remember that company?
Oh, yeah,
that great American company that went bankrupt and is now making chemicals for some reason. So it was cheaper for me to buy film and batteries at Disneyland at work than it was to go to the local discount stores. Kmart couldn't beat the prices that I could get. And Disney didn't give a shit because they were still making money, even at the 35% off of their outrageous prices, which was still a little bit lower. They were still making money and they were getting kickbacks from all these companies. So they just carried it all the way across to the tobacco shop. And there was only, at that point, I think there was maybe, when I was a train conductor, there was 3 out of 30 of us that smoked because this is the mid 80s and it's, the People's Republic of California at that time is the early burgeoning anti-smoking movement. My parents were two of the first anti-smokers I've ever met. And we had a no smoking sign on our house, the front of our house, which was just, imagine the thrill that they had when I found out that I was not only do I like this stuff, but guess what? I'm going to make a career out of it. And if you don't like it, oops, sorry. So yeah, that made for some unpopular conversations around the kitchen table occasionally.
I was thinking about, because I've been anticipating this for a while, knew absolutely nothing about Disney pipes. And I was thinking about it. And for those of us of a certain age, when we think Disney, I think, Bambi, I think 1001 Dalmatians, I think, the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
And then again, for those of us of a certain age, you have children, you have grandchildren, and it dawned on me I'm thinking, and I actually made a list, I'll be quick: Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Toy Story, Lion King, Toy Story 2, 3, and 4, Monsters, Inc., Lilo and Stitch, Finding Nemo. I can sing the entire track of Moana to you guys. That'll be for another pipe show. Frozen 1, Frozen 2, Coco, The Incredibles, it's the influence that this enterprise had on the country, and to think that they once upon a time they were full on up in the tobacco market is just kind of mind-boggling.
I would like every one of you here to, as a grown adult, to watch Alice in Wonderland with the adult knowing eyes that we have now, and try to explain that to small children. Why is she sipping out of a little bottle that makes her small or happy? Why is she eating mushrooms? Why is there a caterpillar that changes shapes after smoking a hookah? You want to really explain that to a child of this current day? You couldn't get a lot of those classics made now. They could not do Alice in Wonderland.
I have to watch it totally straight. No hallucinogen, no psychedelics.
Yeah, no yellow submarine in the room.
Gotcha.
I mean, seriously, behind me here, and I'll flip the camera so everybody gets a little earthquake again, are two of my favorites. The one on the left is a piece of art from Fantasia, and the one on the right is Dumbo. Dumbo and I share the same birthday, several years apart, but I like those pieces of art, so I stand there and stare at them. Fantasia was the first music video. It was the first movie ever made with absolutely no dialogue and just made to the animator's view of what the musician was thinking. It was a music video. It went on for an hour and 20 minutes, and it was a huge flop at the box office. Could you imagine right now taking your kids to go see an hour and 20-minute classical concert of 5 different pieces of music just to bizarre art and one Mickey Mouse thing in the middle of it? Yeah. There's stuff that they couldn't do now. Instead, we tend to get formulaic stuff like the Moana, Princess and the Bride. I like Frozen. I think Frozen's great. Frozen 2, not so much, but yeah.
Snoop Dogg's a big fan.
Yeah. Me and the dog are down with it. But yeah, it's just a massive influence on on what goes on in our lives. The original Dumbo was brought out, was not successful because it was launched on October 23rd, 1941. And the European markets were already closed because of war. And then the US market shut down, about 6 weeks later when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. So there's parts of Dumbo that got dropped off, but imagine your lead character gets high on champagne and starts having these hallucinations of pink elephants dancing on a parade. Man, it's just bizarre stuff. It's great.
It was interesting. I noticed it as I was, I Googled a list. half of the movies were summer movies. They came out in June. The other half were holiday movies. They came out November 22nd, 24th. And it's basically 50-50. So, you know, Frozen 2 were all, Moana was November, Coco was November 24th. Incredibles and Toy Story were all summer flicks. I just found that interesting. I never even would have known that or paid attention to it.
And if I understand it right, the summer movie, summer used to be the time where movies went to die. Because people were traveling, people were out of school, and then there was a movie that became the first one to have the phrase blockbuster coined for it, and it was a summer movie about a shark that was eating people off the coast. And Jaws was the beginning of the summer blockbuster, and then you started having movies coming out then. Otherwise, summertime was where you put out a dead movie and you didn't care because people were doing stuff. The rest of the time you'd put it out in September, February. You wanted them when they were home and doing things.
We launched the weekly virtual Pipe Club meetings in the summer. I think we're doing well.
Yeah, this summer is a little different. There are no summer blockbuster movies, so we killed the movies. Yeah. No, to me, the only thing that I can say for the Disney company is when Walt Disney opened Disneyland, he did not want any alcohol in there because he didn't want that kind of an atmosphere. When they opened up EPCOT, they started serving beer and wine in the pavilions of the different countries that was, you know, kind of that country's specialty drink. And then they slowly started having full bars and stuff. And now there's a couple places at Disneyland where you can go in and buy alcoholic beverages open to the public. There's a couple places at the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World where you can go in and buy open to the public alcoholic products. I sent them a nasty letter when I found at 3 feet high on a shelf in a standard gift store was a new line of moonshine that they were promoting. I said, great, now we're teaching kids to drink hard corn liquor. And it was at 3 feet high, just out in the standard gift shop. But let's not see them puff on a Marlboro. God, no, they might, you know. Anyway, yeah.
They were ahead of the curve on the whole whiskey craze.
This was about a year and a half ago. There are still, and if you go to the fan page, you'll see a couple of representations of pipe smokers in attractions and pictures or pipe smoking portrayed around the Disney parks. And I predominantly put those up there just to show that Disney said, you know, you can't smoke in the parks. I said, well, what about that damn pirate and the guy at the Carousel of Progress and this guy over here? He's sitting there puffing on his pipe. What the hell's that bullshit? You know, if he can smoke, I can smoke. Oh, wait, he's electronic? No, I'm not. Yeah.
We got a WKR Piper in Cincinnati over here on YouTube. He said he never got into Disney, but he, also a guy my age, watched Sid and Marty Krofft.
Mm-hmm.
If any of you remember HR Puff and stuff,
yeah,
just the name alone is a clue as to how wacky and wild that show was.
Yeah. I went to college with Deanna Croft, who was Sid. I think she was Sid Croft's daughter. She wasn't very nice, but at the same time, she was she told some interesting stories of her dad and her uncle and some of the people that she met, but she wasn't very nice. She was a little uppity.
Fellas, if you've got questions, this is your chance to ask Brian about, so just to kind of recontextualize our guest for those who, I think all of you guys here in the club were here before or know who Brian is, but maybe some of the guys who are watching over there on YouTube are new. So Brian's been around in the pipe and tobacco world for a long time. We used to work for Dunhill, and has been the host of the #1 podcast on pipes in the world. How many years? Now, 13 years, is that right?
No, we just started our 9th year last week, so 419 weeks in a row. The other thing that you can do, and I'll start the recording and I'll do the introduction formally here in just a second. I am one of 38 living Doctor of Pipes, and there's my medallion with my name and my date on it from the Chicago Pipe Club. I wear this sometimes around the house just to make my wife, and sometimes I don't have any pants on when I wear it. So think about that thought while you're coming up with questions.
Hello.
Yeah. I just wear that big thing. I look like, what was that? Flavor Flav. I got my big chocolate cookie. For those of us that are Jewish, no, it is not chocolate. I tried peeling it back to see if there was any chocolate inside, and damn it, no, it's actual just a big chunk of brass or something. But yeah, we can ask questions about that. And what I'll do is I will start the recording. I'll do an introduction here. I'll keep track of the time and I'll put in the commercial breaks so that it sounds like if we're just doing a regular show and everything. So if you'll bear with me here. If you're asking a question that our host and moderator has to answer, and if you're asking a question of me, please tell me your name and tell me where you're from, especially those of you that are not here in the United States, because I would really love to hear from you guys. So here we go. And because we are required to do this, I'm now required to tell you that I am recording, so whatever you say can and will be held against you in the court of public opinion for the rest of eternity. Amen. So there we go. And now I'll do the formal introduction. We are back on the Pipes Magazine radio show, and joining us is a lot of people. Why? Because there's a great group of people. It's the Virtual Pipe Club, started by David Dorian Ross. I'm assuming you started it because you seem like the El Jefe organizer, right?
I'm just the guy who knows a guy or two.
Okay. But so this is recorded on a Saturday afternoon while I just got done presenting about the Disney pipe collection, which all of you that listen to the show have heard way too much about probably. But anyway, so what I'm doing now is opening this up to a Q&A. They ask questions, I give them answers, no holes barred, nothing limited, no holding back. I will give you honest answers, and no question is silly or stupid. So go ahead and ask away. Who wants to start first? And don't worry if there's gaps or anything, because I've got the power to edit. And I can also make you all sound like Mickey Mouse if I want to.
Brian, I'll go ahead and start it off.
Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
This is Todd out in Silicon Valley, California.
Yes, sir.
Saw the pipes. You held one up. I think it was a Kamoy, I think from 1971. Is that what you believe it to be?
The paneled apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how many of your pipes do you think are maybe Kamoy? And this is a part, I don't have any Kamoy pipes, and I know they've changed hands. I don't know about factories.
Yeah.
When was the heyday? When was the golden era of the Kamoys? And is that one of them from 1971?
So no, this isn't. The golden era of Kamoys breaks down into, so I don't know how to say this the kind way, except for the Cadogan Oppenheimer company came along and bought up a lot of brands. At the end of their company, really, they owned, and they may still own, Sassini, Barling, Kamoys. Those are the bigger brands. And what they do is they'd buy these family businesses and bring them all into one and merge them. And they started doing this in the 60s and into the 70s. So with Kamoys, there is a transition time. And what you want to look for with what is a top quality Kamoys, the letter C on the stem is going to be drilled in what's called a 3-part C. So they drill a big hole, insert a white dot or white rod in there, and make a big circle. and I'm doing this on the camera so that everybody can see, and it's probably virtually useless because it's so small. But they'd make a big dot. They'd drill that big dot, and then they'd come back and take a drill and do a smaller dot right through the middle and put black in there. So now you had an O with a white O with a block of black in it. And then after that, they'd come back and they'd punch out the C portion and put in another black. So you can look at it under a loop or a magnifying glass, and it'll have 3 parts to the process, and you can see all 3 of them. If you find a Camoys that has a 3-part C, I will say that it is as good of a smoker as any Cecchini, Barling, or Dunhill of its era. If you find a Camoys Blue Riban or a Specimen Straight Grain, or what was the line right below Blue Riban, those pipes were actually priced higher than Dunhill at that time on the market, and they are really good quality smoking pipes that in this day and age only the really super examples really draw any kind of money. Unfortunately, none of these that all the Disney pipes were basket pipe seconds. This one's got 1, 2, 3 fills in it and a bald spot that looks like it could be a cue ball. I mean, there is no grain on that side at all. So, again, these weren't pretty because Disney wasn't paying pretty money for them. But yeah, look for with Camoys, look for that 3-part drilled C in it, and that will tell you right away if it's what I consider to be the old classic era. If you just see a stamped C, like the heat stamps, like I showed you with some of the Disney logos, then that's not going to be one of the greatest pipes ever. And unfortunately, the same thing happened with Barling and Cecchini. Barling, when you get to the 4-digit shape codes, you've gone awry. Go back to the 3s. Cecchini, when you get to the shape numbers, instead of all their shape names were cities in England or in the United Kingdom, then you're in a good Cecchini period when you have shape names. If you have shape numbers, you're into the Cadogan Oppenheimer era, and you're in what became a race to the bottom for the lowest prices possible. But yeah, did that answer that long-winded question?
Yeah, and just real quick, the other brand, did I hear you say Medico was one of them?
Medico and K. Woody and SM Frank were selling pipes to Disneyland and Disney World. I have a couple of pipes that I think might have been made there, but I don't have any confirmation that they actually stamped Disney on them. They were just selling traditional Medicos and yellow bowls there.
And they were all, as you said, basket pipes,
standard. Yeah, standard pipe that you might find, picture this, Medico pipe smoker is on a 3-day trip with his family, and he goes to Disneyland and breaks his pipe. Well, Disneyland had pipes to sell you that were just Medicos. It's kind of like they also sold shoelaces, which was one of the things that, non-Disney related shoelaces. You could actually go there. If you broke your shoelaces, you could buy new shoelaces. At one point, I think we had pantyhose for sale that were just legs pantyhose. I don't know why I know that, except it's just some of the odd stuff that we sold occasionally.
Pantyhose, bras.
The Wizard of Bras, yeah. For those listening on the podcast, email me. I'll tell you about Wizard of Bras at Disneyland.
No thongs?
Not back then, no. Mm-mm.
Brian.
Yes, sir.
Good evening from Bonnie, Scotland. You wanted some input from the other side of the pond, so here we are.
Yeah.
My question is tobacco related. Boris, who's in the meeting, who's in Helsinki, we've had a wee exchange of tobaccos back and forward. A few weeks ago, I sent him some Sun Bear, which guys on the continent find difficult to get hold of. In the UK, I was able to get some under the radar, send it on. And in return, Boris sent me some Dunhill BB 1938. Baby's bottom, okay?
Yeah.
Now, in Scotland, we would call it baby's bum.
Yep.
Now, you can't get it anymore. What is the closest we can get to baby's bum? Because it's fantastic. It's smooth. It's just a mellow smoke. You could smoke it all day long and never get tired.
So for you in Scotland, I'll be talking out of my arse on some of this. Baby's Bottom was originally a Savory's tobacco company blend that Dunhill copied, took over. And in the transition of companies from, now that it's under the Peterson brand, some stuff had to be cut. There's a chance that they may bring back that recipe for BB 1938, and they can't call it Baby's Bottom anymore because that's not politically correct anymore. I really don't know what else is close to it. I really don't know what to say, but if it's and this is one of the things that I've tried to preach all these years. If you find something that you like, grab a hold of as much as you can, because tobacco is never going to be cheaper than it is now and never going to be more readily available than it is now. So even for you in Scotland, a 50-gram tin of tobacco is about 22, 24 pounds now?
50 grams I can get for about 15, 16 pounds. Yeah.
16 pounds converted to US funny money, so $21, $22 for a 50-gram tin. Yeah.
The good thing is we still have the tobacco shop in Edinburgh, which is about 30 miles from me. Old school, the last tobacco shop in Edinburgh that has a lot of the old blends. But they will.
I'd say for the rest of the show, we just have Phil talk so that I can hear his accent. And
Phil, you have to come up with another question here in a minute. Phil, who might know about Baby's Bum is Russellette. We should send him a question about that.
Okay.
Brian, I have a question over here from the YouTube group. David, by the way, while I'm asking your question, where are you from? So that, because Brian's interested in where everybody's from and they ask our questions. Anyway, he says, in your opinion, which American carvers pipes, that, in other words, people who are carving now or making pipes now, do you think will be considered collector's items 50 years from now?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, for those of you who have not heard me before, let me tell you what I think about opinions. I'm sitting on one. We're back to Phil's arse again. But I am the leading expert on my own opinion, and you're welcome to it. So here's what I think. Current American carvers that will be highly collected still once they are long gone and not making anymore. I think JT Cook, because of the way he changed the way we look at sandblasting, he really changed the way the process of sandblasting happened, and he really made it to where a almost artfully carved sandblasted pipe is worth more than a good straight grain. So I think JT Cook, who is still alive and still making pipes and makes 60, 70 a year. In North America, there are two guys that come immediately to the forefront for full-time pipe makers that have long waiting lists and are still desirable, and I think those guys will continue forward with collectability, and that's Michael Parks from Canada and Jay Allen, Jeff Grasick. Both of them have established themselves as full-time pipe makers, making top quality pipes at the top of their game. The other thing that a lot of on the artisan pipe front, Jeff's been on my show several times, and he's talked about working with Jody Davis and working with Todd Johnson, and then going to Denmark and spending time. Both Michael and Jeff have been very generous with their time in talking and coaching and advising other pipe makers, because they got gifts given to them, so they're giving those gifts forward. So their legacy is going to move on, because their value is moving on with other pipe makers once they retire or quit or whatever. If Jeff Graysick wins a surfing national championship, I'm pretty sure he's done making pipes and is a 40-some-odd-year-old surfer. But it's very similar to what happened with two guys in Denmark, Emil Konowitz and Sixten Iverson. Both started this school of thought, had others around them, but traded it forward with their information and had the next generation come on. And you get guys like Jody Davis, Todd Johnson, that went and studied with Jes Konowitz and Lars Iverson and learned what their fathers told them and adapted and altered it. So you get that whole pouring forward. But those are the three guys that I think are going to continue to be of collectible value, which I hate to say that. Because in reality, I mean, I was smoking this for breakfast. That's a J. Allen pipe that, it's not cheap when you buy it the first time, but the amount of pleasure that it gives me, I don't look at it as an investment. I look at it I really love this, and it smokes really well.
Yeah, so Jeff's been a guest on our show, and Michael Parks is, I just talked to him over the last couple of days, and he's going to be a guest on our show coming up.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And by the way, David says he's from Detroit, Michigan. So that question comes from Motor City.
Go Red Wings. I don't know anything about hockey. Sorry, but we were talking Canadians, hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, guys, what other questions do you have? Just go ahead and shout it out for Brian.
I mean, no subject is off the table, so ask whatever you want.
I've got one. If you can hear me okay?
Yep.
My name's Oliver. I live in Switzerland. Are you regretting talking a lot about Disney pipes recently? Has the value gone up since you've talked about them on your show?
In 2006, when the article came out, I was buying my Disney pipes for $15, $20, $25 each. And then literally when that article came out, they went up to $100 a piece. And there were some times when I could not afford to buy them. Do I regret it? No. I always love sharing the things that I like and sharing knowledge and sharing my passions. I don't regret it at all. In the 14 years since the article came out, I've still had people that have said, yeah, I can make more money off of this, but I'd rather you have the pipe for your collection. So people have literally given me pipes for the collection. No, I never regret it. And I actually love the fact that I kind of created a niche of interest, and that a lot of people want to have just one good Disney pipe for their collection. And before that, with that and the Pipes Magazine radio show, those may be my only two industry legacy things that I'll leave behind. And when I die, my kids are going to go, what do I do with all these old pipes of Dad's? Yeah. But don't worry, they've got phone numbers and email addresses of what to do when Dad's gone. So, but they won't be smoking the pipes, because I am such a bad tobacco salesman that I cannot get my son or my daughter to want to smoke a pipe. Which means my tobacco collection or tobacco cellar is very safe here.
If you were against pipe smoking, they'd be all over it right now.
Yeah. Or if someday maybe they'll sit down and pick up a pipe and try it. I don't know. I'm not forcing them. They'd have to. I'd have to start them off on some nasty aromatic first, just to haze them correctly. Even worse, they may switch to they may like Latakias, and then I'd be really, then
Start them off on a big bowl of Molto Dolce.
Oh yeah. One big bowl of Molto Dolce, that thing will smoke for 3 days because it's so wet you can't get it to light.
Or the whole briar will just immolate and
Middleton's cherry blend.
Yep. Actually, the first pipe and the first tobacco I ever smoked was at Walt Disney World in 1989. I bought a corncob pipe, and I'm pretty sure I bought a Prince Albert cherry pouch of tobacco and tried it in the hotel room, and it was terrible. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing either, because the cashier at the regular little gift shop thing didn't tell me, oh, you need a tamper too. Oh, really? Well, I don't know.
Lowell, you've known Brian for a long time. What's one question you don't think he wants us to ask?
What's next in your business future?
So a lot of you know that I was doing travel. I was booking travel for people. I tried that for a couple of years. That I'll tell you why it flopped, really. A lot of my social media and my friends are pipe and cigar smokers, and then Cuba got closed to American travelers. The Dominican Republic and Mexico started killing American travelers randomly. And then the Walt Disney Company banned smoking in their parks. And those were the things I was kind of known for. And then we had this little thing called coronavirus come along, which killed all travel. I've got a couple ideas of things. But right now, I'm kind of having fun when, I was reading with the travel stuff. I was reading 25, 30 emails a day and doing 10 to 12 hours a week of webinars. And I was social distancing way before social distancing was cool by watching all these webinars. And some people in the travel business should never get in front of a camera. They should never do an official presentation. But I got a couple ideas of some stuff that I want to work on. Nothing firm yet. Nothing that I can talk about.
Okay.
Super. Got another question over here from the YouTube group. Ahmad, who is, he says, hello from the Mediterranean. I think we can be more specific than that, Ahmad, unless you're right in the middle of the ocean. But he says, why do pipe smokers hoard so much?
Because we are a nervous group of people that are afraid they're going to take our toys away. I think there's first of all, and I've been accused of this as that pipe smoking is a lifestyle, not a hobby. I think there are pipe smokers that smoke because it's a lifestyle, and then I think there are pipe collectors and pipe smokers that are in it because it's a hobby. They're two different people. The pipe smoker, to me, in the lifestyle, is somebody who smokes a pipe 3 or 4 times a day, or it's a regular habitual routine, and they've got 5, 10, 12 pipes, and they've got their favorite tobacco, and that's what they do. Then there's the collector side of us, which I am an obsessive compulsive collector of whatever I happen to find shiny, new, and exciting to me at the moment. I will dive head deep into collecting Disney. I had the little Disney collector pins, little tiny ones. I went nuts. I went off the deep end. I would starve myself for weeks just to try to get the right pin. There's a collector mentality. And when you get into the type of pipe smokers that we are, that want to know more information, we want to learn more, we want to understand more. We're not just the ones that want to get the Cliff Notes version of a book. We want to read the book and then learn about the author that wrote it and what he was thinking or she was thinking, or going in deeper behind it. we don't want to know just that I like sourdough bread. We don't want to know that just sourdough bread is good and I like to eat it. We want to know where my favorite version of it is and what the secret sauce is behind it. You know, we want to know more. And once we find something that we like, we don't want to be like Phil and not have any more baby's bottom to rub on. We're afraid that we'll lose our favorite thing. I'm obsessive, and I did I did some math at age 49. I figured out that I wanted to make sure I had enough tobacco to smoke until age 75. So I did the math based off of 3 to 4 bowls a day, slightly decreasing scale as I got older, assuming that I would smoke less and less. Average 3 to 4 bowls a day. I came up with 252 pounds, and that's how much tobacco I needed to have on hand of all tobacco that I liked. Nothing that was for taste testing or for trial or maybe on the iffy side. Well, then I sat back and said, wait a second. I need to do the math on the pipe cleaners because I use 2 pipe cleaners per bowl. One during the bowl while I'm smoking to just keep the stick in there and clean out and pull out. And then if I'm not wearing a headset, I have it tucked behind my ear or in an ashtray. I need 2 pipe cleaners. The second one is at the end of the bowl where I dip it in Everclear and I clean through the draft hole and then I clean the inside of the bowl with it. That second one. So that's 2 per bowl. So I did some more math. 3 to 4 bowls a day, 252 pounds of tobacco converted into grams because grams is easier to work with. You Europeans and your metric system is so beautiful. It's easier to work with than our cocked up stones, pounds, ounces and all that weird stuff. I needed 91,000 pipe cleaners to get to age 75. When I stopped buying them in full cases of 10,000 at a time, I had 92,000 plus. I'm done buying pipe cleaners. But you laugh. Right now, if something happens and pipe smoking and tobacco becomes more expensive and less people do it, what do you think the odds are that the real cotton 6.5-inch pipe cleaners are going to be harder and harder to get? And we're going to be stuck going to Walmart, finding the $3.95 for 24 multicolored fuzzy sticks that are made out of polyester. Well, I got pipe cleaners. We don't have any food, and we could die from a zombie apocalypse of no food, but it won't be because I'm not out of pipe cleaners.
You know, that is ironic. It's kind of hilarious, Brian, that you said that because I used the same system. I calculated 3.5 grams a day. I'm 59. I figured 20 years. I've got about 125 pounds of tobacco, about 58,000 grams. I didn't do it for the pipe cleaners, but I do have several grocery bags full of the bristled pipe cleaners and the smooth cotton ones. I don't know how many that is, but I go through them like tissue. Yeah. That's funny.
I am not alone in my craziness. There are multiples in this room with me.
I used to tell people when I'd show them my closet, I said, I am ready for the apocalypse. Mm-hmm. And the apocalypse hit back in March.
Yeah.
Hi from Germany here. Jürgen is my name. And you're not alone. I have made this math because you mentioned it on your last visit here. And I'm thinking about it because we had a discussion on Facebook here in Germany on some groups that the quality of the pipe cleaner gets less high than it was in the past. So I'm thinking about that too. I have enough tobacco for the rest of my life. That is not a problem for me. I have the same thoughts about that several years ago. And it's all you said later. Earlier in this talk, you can buy the tobacco right now as the cheapest point. It will always get higher in the future. That's for sure.
Yeah.
One thing for Phil, I have put a link on the chat. If he wants the baby button, there is a replacement from Kohlhaas and Kopp under the brand from Robert McConnell. It's the Latakia mixture, 1848. This is this is the heritage line, and they made it because they had the licenses for the Dunhill brands before they lost it, and they made their own versions of all the Dunhill blends. You can find it. I don't know how to get this in the UK, but it should be possible to get it.
Yeah, and for Oliver in Switzerland, the best pipe cleaners in the world were made in Switzerland for a while when Bill's was there. And boy, if you can ever get a hold of them, the Big Ben for a while made some incredible pipe cleaners that were made in Switzerland and sold to Big Ben in Holland under their name.
Yes. And you nearly get them in Germany too. I don't see them anymore. The white red ones.
Yeah.
You only get the Faun, the blue white ones, and sometimes you get white greens, and from time to time you get not really good white cleaners. So you get in trouble if you don't think about that. So you're absolutely right.
And the Vauen pipe company is made in Germany, is the only other pipe company under an agreement with Dunhill that is allowed to use the white dot, a single white dot on their stem. And it's a larger white dot, but they have they made an agreement, and it's an old agreement that they still honor today.
It goes back to the 1920s. There was a legal issue with it in the 20s. I have here some. It's a NCR called, and this is a white dot.
Yeah.
Internationally, it is a gray dot because of that reason. In Germany, it is a white dot.
Yep. You used to call it the German Dunhills.
Yes. Or student Dunhills, it's also called, because it's a factory pipe and it's much cheaper than the real Dunhills. And then I have a question about the Dunhill brand itself, because it's not called anymore Dunhill. If you buy a Dunhill, it's a white spot. What do you think about that politic?
So that is called Big Cigarette Company. This may not translate into multiple languages, but we'll call it CYA, which stands for, and if I use the proper Scottish term, cover your arse. The cigarette companies, if I remember right, it was British American Tobacco that owned the Dunhill name through their acquisition of Rothmans, and they owned the rights to the name of Dunhill on any tobacco product, tobacco related product, tobacco accessory, so on and so on. The clothing line was separated off, and it was sold to the Richemont Group from South Africa, and that was Alfred Dunhill, and it was all lowercase letters because they couldn't use the uppercase D. But that was also the lighters and wallets and men's clothing. So probably what happened in BAT's legal room somewhere was somebody at BAT said, you know, we've got this big global citizen campaign, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure this is what happened, where we only buy from fair trade tobacco growers that don't use any bad pesticides, don't use any child labor, don't use any unfair labor practices. And we've got this multi-billion-dollar business in cigarettes. And then we license this name Dunhill onto these cigars and these pipe tobaccos and all this other stuff but we don't control the manufacturing of it. We don't know where they're making it. We don't know where they're selling it. All we're doing is we're getting this little licensing fee of, a couple £1,000,000 a year. And somebody in legal probably said, we're only getting a couple £1,000,000 a year of revenue off of this, but this is a huge liability for us. What happens if we find out that the pipe tobacco or the cigars are being made by children that are shackled in chains and never see daylight because they live in a dungeon underground, and Indiana Jones has to go in there and save them? Well, this is a big liability for us, and we're a big cigarette company. We don't need this, so we're just going to stop this. And they did. And they told the group that owns the pipe side of it and the accessory side of it that you need to get the name off of there. It either needs to be Alfred Dunhill lowercase, or in the pipe part of it, they slowly switched to Dunhill's White Spot, which it was originally. It was called Dunhill's. If you go back in England, it was Alfred Dunhill's. And then they just switched it all the way back to the White Spot, and got rid of the name Alfred Dunhill, or sometimes they'll refer to it as the White Spot by Alfred Dunhill. But it was just a legal protection move. And it was a doom and gloom lawyer, and it was probably some doom and gloom British lawyer, which I understand they're more doomier and gloomier than American lawyers, because they have to wear those funny wigs when they go in to talk in court. So they really don't like that. I don't have anything that, I can tell you right now, the pipe tobaccos are the same ones that have been made since 2006. It's the same exact tobacco products. The only changes that are now is it says Peterson on the label instead. And now that Scandinavian Tobacco Group owns the license completely and can do what they want with the trade names of the blends, they can bring back things like BB 1938 whenever they want, or they can bring back, Dunhill 965. That was my mixture 965. Well, there's 964 my mixtures before that in the list, and there's a couple thousand afterwards. So they could go back and pull up any of these my mixtures that they have the formulas for and introduce them globally. I don't know how it would work here in the US with the FDA right now, but globally, you could, in Scotland, you could have, 3,000 different my mixtures on a shelf, and nobody would buy them because there's not that many pipe smokers in Scotland anymore.
Brian, I got a couple for you here.
Yeah.
First, I wanted to ask one of our regular members is not here today. He's usually here every Saturday, and that's Dimitri. Dimitri's up in New York, and has been a devoted fan of Nat Sherman's. And I thought I would ask you what your thoughts are on the closing of Nat Sherman's, and then what they're doing with their licensing.
Well, dear Dimitri, you can thank your uncle Philip Morris for screwing the pooch on that one. Philip Morris bought the Nat Sherman company, thinking that they were going to take the Nat Sherman cigarettes, the natural Nat Sherman cigarettes, and go after American Spirit cigarettes and get some of that marketplace. And American Spirit is the only cigarette brand that was, well, I don't know the numbers in the last 2 years, but I know from the year 2000 up to 2017, they were getting double-digit increases per year in volume on American Spirit. American Spirit went from a company that was sold for about $275 million in 2001 or 2 to a company where the European rights or the international rights were sold to Japan Tobacco for $5 billion alone, and that didn't include the U.S. So Altria, better known as Philip Morris, wanted some of that natural business, and they thought they'd buy Nat Sherman for it, and they just didn't know what they were doing with it. And then they realized that they were they probably made a business decision that said, you know, we'll focus on the jewels and the non-combustible tobacco products, the heat not burn, the tobacco lozenges or nicotine lozenges. We'll focus on that instead of a natural premium product and just let Reynolds American have that natural business. Unfortunately, the Nat Sherman Townhouse and the Nat Sherman cigar line and then the Nat Sherman pipe tobaccos became a casualty of that fallout. And this is a perfect example of what I've described a couple of times, is when the anti-smokers come after tobacco, all they see is they see those packs of Mickey Mouse cigarettes and they think, oh, we got to keep kids away from cigarettes. In the world of big game hunting, if you think of cigarettes as the elephant that the antis are trying to kill, the cigarette business is the elephant. On top of the elephant, there's always a mouse riding around, right? The cute little mouse up on top hanging out there. That mouse is the premium cigar business, and maybe the chewing tobacco business can go in with the elephant. But on that mouse, there's a flea, and that flea is the pipe tobacco industry. The big game hunter, when they're trying to kill the elephant, doesn't even know that there's a mouse on top, let alone a flea on the mouse. And when the elephant falls and crushes the mouse, the flea gets killed there, and they don't even know it. So that's what happened with the Nat Sherman Townhouse. Somebody at Altria or Philip Morris said, why do we have this retail business, and why do we have this brand that we're not doing anything with, that's just, you know, not going to go anywhere? Let's just kill it and not let anybody else take the brand name, and we'll just focus on this other product. And it's really sad that the business came to that. I don't even think they offered it for sale to anybody. They didn't offer the trade name for sale to anybody, because I might have heard about that, but they didn't offer the Nat Sherman name for the premium cigars. And the pipe tobacco was good. It wasn't anything to write home about. It was blends that were made for them.
Yeah, the brand has got to be worth some money. We have a couple other questions I promised I would pass along. First of all, Simon from UK, London Calling. Simon's on YouTube over there. I'm so tickled that you're watching. By the way, Simon, Happy New Year. And he asked basically the same question. They own the blend names. Can't they just license them? And I would imagine they could if somebody recognized the value there.
So the same with Nat Sherman and with Dunhill. Any of the manufacturers that actually made the product for those companies could come out with product under maybe the similar trade names. You know, you never know. But they can't use the same exact name. So you can't use, you know, if you can't use nightcap anywhere, because somebody will sue you for it. So don't do that. So then you have what Esoterica did, which is "and so to bed." The Esoterica line of tobaccos, if you look at them, they're surprisingly similar in scope to what the Dunhill tobacco line was 30 years ago. You know, and some of the names are pretty darn close. Tilbury's a very good kind of Elizabethan ye old sign style. So you can duplicate stuff or try to attempt to complement it and come out with it. There was a McClellan did one called Orient 966. Guess what it was supposed to be like? I don't know, maybe a 965. Yeah. You can, yeah, there's stuff like that's happened all the time.
Ahmad from, by the way, he's not just swimming in the middle of the Mediterranean. He's in Alexandria. He asked a specific question about your opinion, what you're sitting on there, about a couple of different tobaccos themselves. So what are your thoughts on Three Nuns versus, let me see if I can find another question. Well, what do you think about Three Nuns? That's his main question. He loves it.
So it depends on the version. Three Nuns originally was in fact, it goes back to Scotland, because the Scottish are interested in nuns, apparently. But it was it was a regional blend in Scotland, from what I understand. But it was very Perique. And the new ones, when it moved around and changed names or changed hands a couple of times, somebody left the Perique out of it. When I was with Sutliff Mac Baren and we had that Three Nuns version that didn't have the Perique in it, I was not a fan of it. I like Perique. I'm sorry. To me, there is blends with Perique, and then there's all that other stuff. And I smoke maybe 5 or 6 tins, 50-gram tins a year of straight Virginias. The rest of it is Virginia Perique, or as I call it, Perique blends with something else in it so that I can, light it. I need Perique. I love it. It reminds me.
I have a question.
But yeah, that the newer Three Nuns is good stuff. I really like it with about 2 years of age on it. But that's the short answer.
Steven, jump on in there, buddy.
Yeah, I have a question about, since you love Perique, have you ever had Bayou Morning?
Yes.
Do you like that?
I did a review of Bayou Morning and Bayou Morning Flake and compared the two of them. I do like it. It left me personally, for me, when I do the blend reviews, I try to figure out what the tobacco is going to taste like for you. And if you like this, you'll like this. Or if you're thinking about this, it will make you feel like that. I don't try to put my personal thing into it. I know that if I'm sitting there smoking it and all of a sudden I'm on smokingpipes.com ordering 10 tins of it, then I like it. I did not order 10 tins of Bayou Morning or Bayou Morning Flake.
Did you find a big difference between the two?
I'd really have to go back and remember. I don't. I'm the oddity in the crowd again, because I don't like flakes. Flake tobaccos to me are like fajitas or IKEA furniture. You have to do work before you get to do anything with it. I would much rather the tobacco blender do the rest of the work and just bring it to me. If they could pack my bowl the way I liked, I'd be even happier. But when I go to a Mexican restaurant, I don't want fajitas, because then you got to take the meat and the tortilla and the this and the that and put it together. You know what? There's people that do that way better than me. Just bring me a taco and shut up.
I'm with you.
Cigarette.
Yeah. Just give me the cigarette and leave me alone. I'm happy. No, but
Brian, is flake and rubbing your own tobacco, is that no part of the ritual?
For those of you that like that ritual, yes. I'll show you guys something that I'm working on right here that I've been dreading the process of, but I've got to do it tonight because as we're recording this, I'm leaving tomorrow for 6 days. I'm going to sound like another elitist snob, but so what, I am. I happen to acquire some McClellan Beacon bulk loose in a bag. Don't ask me how. I know people. Things happen. Some people like me. Some people don't. More don't. But this is some Beacon from 2016 that I put in a jar, and there is probably, Beacon was sold in a 50-gram tin. There's probably 8 ounces of it in here. I am so cheap that I kept an old tin of Beacon that's empty. I'm going to sit here and rub out 3 or 4 ounces all at once while sitting and watching YouTube videos or watching past virtual pipe club meetings. Or, for Oliver, I'm a Swiss watch fanatic, so I watch all the I look at watch YouTube stuff. But I'm going to sit here and rub out all those flakes and dry it down a little bit, get all the stems out of it, and then I'll pack that tin full of about 4 or 5 ounces, and I'll take that with me in 1 tin of my regular stuff, and for 6 days of being gone, that'll be way more tobacco. You know what? I'd be much happier if the manufacturer, well, I'd be much happier if the manufacturer was still in business, but they're not. But I'd be much happier if they did this in a ribbon cut, and all I had to do is open the jar and shove it in my pipe.
Sounds like a job for your kids.
Simon is called the Philistine for your hatred of flake. I just want to pass that along so that you know.
Simon, I am a Philistine for many more things than that, and that is way down the list of what would that be? Philistinatic things? Yeah, I don't know. I don't like IKEA. Does that put me back on the list of good people?
I meant to ask you like a couple questions in regards what are your favorite vapors.
Yeah.
I was going to mention actually either a beacon or extra beacon, but now that you say about the flakes, probably those are not on your favorite top 3. Which ones are your McClellan favorite vapors or any other brand that you had? EPCOT or...
Yeah, so McClellan favorites, Beacon, and then the Beacon Extra, St. James Woods. St. James Woods, now that it's cooling down here in the Northern Hemisphere, St. James Woods will be my bedtime for about, the last bowl of the evening for most of the winter time. Same thing with Beacon Extra. It's got that punch that I like. The regular Beacon pairs up fairly well with my Acadian Ribbon, as far as strength goes. Non-McClellan, non-McClellan, the 3 Nuns with Perique, you can't go wrong with. Escudo, still, but again, the 3 Nuns and the Escudo, I like to give it about 2 years of sitting in the can before I really want to start playing with it. It's really unfair for me to compare fresh Escudo to 15-year-old McClellan or 15-year-old Escudo. It's just not. It's not fair. That's not it. It's like when you're drinking wine, a 12-year-old French Bordeaux versus last week's Boone's Farm is not you can't compare you can't compare a 12-year-old versus a recent one. Yeah. Or a Scottish. I'll put myself on the Philistine list. I don't like single malt scotches. Sorry. If I'm going to drink a whiskey, I like Irish whiskeys or simple bourbons, but single malt scotch, you give that to me, that's like putting racing fuel in a Ford Pinto. It just doesn't work. But going back to the other Virginia Periques, yeah, I've yet to try them, and I've got to, but I understand some of I've got some friends that I really respect that really like the HU tobaccos, that really like some of the Virginia Periques that he's doing. So,
if you like the 3 Nuns, I really recommend you the Wessex Sovereign. It's like, I don't know if you have tried that one.
I'm making noise here and banging on stuff. So there's the Virginia Flake with a honey topping. So I'm dabbling around and trying to find some other stuff. I also got gifted a whole pile of, when I mean a whole pile, I mean 18 tins of assorted stuff that had been opened, and 1 bowl had been smoked out of it by a friend of mine who's somewhat crazier than I am, which is hard to imagine that there's somebody crazier than I am. And and the other thing is that I have a friend, but yeah, I inherited some tobacco that will be fun to play with, and that listeners of the radio show will hear future discussions about.
Hey, Brian. My name is Ryan. I live out in Orange County. It's not too far from Disneyland, and I have a Disney-related question for you. Yeah. Do you know to what degree the Disney Archives has preserved any history around pipes or tobacco or anything like that? Or is it one of those things where they're kind of disavowing it, or we should expect that they're going to purge the archives of that to sort of erase the memory?
No, the Disney archives has the good and the bad in it. They have the bad and they hide it. I do know, because I was working every angle possible, that I wanted a Walt Disney World designated smoking area sign. I wanted one. I know all of the places to look for them online. I know all the people that tend to buy all the old props and stuff and old shop signs and stuff. And I know a couple of people that work there. All those signs went to the archives. All of those signs went to the archives. And I was like, you son. And then my wife was like, yes, I'm not going to have to deal with one of those big stupid things in my house. One of my regrets from times when I didn't have enough money, and thankfully for my wife, the tobacco sign from the old market house at Walt Disney World went up for sale on eBay, and it was 6 feet long, 3 feet high, and weighed about 75 pounds because it was on plywood, hand painted and shaped. And I was bidding on it on eBay, and it went for like way over $1,000. And at that time, way over $1,000, she would have not divorced me. She would have drawn and quartered me and dissected me and then put me through the food processor and made a shake out of me and spit me out.
And no sex for a while.
Oh, that, yeah, no. That,
like a keeper.
That's just standard marriage, right? Yeah.
Well, a same-sex marriage. It's always the same sex and only on your birthday.
Yeah.
So...
but wait,
Piper,
wait, this will get edited out though, Phil. We know why the sheep are scared in Scotland. So go ahead, David.
Usually I try to guide the conversations better than I'm doing today, apparently.
Missed that one.
I missed that one. WKR Piper in Cincinnati over there on YouTube says, he's asking about your opinion about Mac Baren. He says he's one of his favorite tobaccos. He said, what do you think of their Mac Baren as a whole and their position in the world of tobacco?
Mac Baren as a whole, first of all, I used to work for them. Second of all, I think everybody there is absolutely wonderful. I really did not meet anybody at Mac Baren in Denmark that was not a person that I would want to well, we were back there a year ago, and I went and visited the office and wanted to give everybody a hug. That's the type of people they are. Mac Baren as a whole has one very important person, and his name is Henrik Hallberg. So when you see the HH on the HH line, those are his initials, Henrik Hallberg. He is the third Hallberg to own the company, so third generation or fourth generation. But Henrik is a tobacco fanatic. He loves tobacco, and he is not the chairman of the board of the company. He's not the president of the company. He owns the company, and he's the primary leaf buyer for the company. He goes on the leaf buying trips himself and loves it. That is an incredibly valuable asset that only Cornell and Deal has in the tobacco world right now that I know of. They really, when you look at it, a tobacco company is only as good as the base product coming in. And when you have Henrik Hallberg, who is willing to go out and find, like the HH Old Dark Fired, that was a batch of dark fired Kentucky leaf that was found here in the United States that he said, okay, yeah, so I'll buy it all. How much do you have? And because he doesn't have to answer to a board of directors and stockholders that need quarterly reports, and he's got a warehouse. Funny story about Henrik. In the town where they are in Svendborg, Denmark, he was having international guests coming to the town, and he didn't like the way the two hotels were treating his guests, so he bought them and bought the hotels and said, you know what, now they'll treat them the way I want. When you get a guy that is willing to go and say, you know what, I'll buy 30 years of this crop of tobacco because it's really special, that adds a whole different level of dimension to the company. Now, he's also very smart that he has money people that run the business and make sure that he doesn't go crazy. But he's also, again, he's a guy that, you know, we ran into him at the hotel. We were staying at the hotel that he owns. While we were there, he was there with some whining and dining some people. He came out to the smoking area to have a smoke with one of the guys. I walked over and said, hi, Henrik, remember me? And oh yeah, how are you? Yeah. And I told him we were there for the wedding. We shook hands, gave a hug, and then we went back to doing what we were doing. 6th or 7th richest guy in Denmark, maybe 8th, don't know. But because of Henrik, they have the ability to do that. When he dies, I don't know. He didn't have any children. I don't know what the next step is for the company, but Henrik Hallberg. And then you have people like Per Jensen, who was born in a briar pipe factory. I mean, his parents owned the George Jensen pipe factory, and he was born upstairs above it. So you don't find too many people who, I think Per is now 61 or 62 years old, and he's been in the business. He was conceived in the business. So if you count, 9 months in the womb, yeah, he's got 63 years in the business and 62 years out of the womb.
Brian, this is Todd again, out in the Silicon Valley. And I always say Silicon Valley because I think I and Chris Morgan are the only two pipe smokers in this valley, but we're marked for, they can shoot us on sight. But there's a great YouTube video on Mac Baren where they're talking about their values and how they do business and how they're not, they don't answer to stockholders or, they're not corporate. It's fantastic, and it just bleeds right through in that video.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. If he wants to go off the deep end and try some new tobacco product, tobacco launch, there's a couple people that might try to talk him out of it. He bought an icebreaker, an Arctic exploring caliber leftover Norwegian military icebreaker, and he bought it for less than the value of the scrap metal of it. But he bought it just so that he could bring it and park it in his harbor in Svendborg. And here's this 12-story high icebreaker just sitting there running with the engines, just so that he can go down there and say, that's my icebreaker. He's eccentric and beautiful all at the same time. And, really is not afraid to spend money on tobacco.
Brian, this is Aaron. I'm joining y'all from Japan.
Konnichiwa, Aaron-san.
It's Ohio gozaimasu.
Sorry.
Your wife was you up at 5:30 this morning. You got me up at 3 a.m. this morning. So
okay, good.
And it's a pleasure. So thanks for joining us this morning. I was wondering, do you have any information? What's it look like for the Chicago Pipe Show for next year? It looks like the Tokyo Pipe Show in December is actually a go. So we're kind of looking forward to that. But I was just wondering, do you have any idea if the Chicago Pipe Show, like there's all the different issues with the Chicago Pipe Show, finding a location, do you have any?
No, they have the location secured. They have the same dates. In reality, a lot of it's going to depend on what happens coronavirus wise.
Right. Okay.
That's really the club has really done a great job finding a new location. The difference will be that there will be literally no smoking allowed in the hotel. So room hopping and hospitality suites may be a thing of the past.
I wanted to say thank you for the pipe show. I always can judge. Every weekend I grow rice out here in the countryside in Tokyo, or outside of Tokyo. So I can always judge traffic by the length of the pipe show, whether I get to my destination by time Trails starts playing or not. Maybe, I don't know if you have a good idea. I've been making pipes for about a year or two. Maybe this is a better question for Jeff or Ask the Pipe Maker, but like in terms of pricing pipes as a new pipe maker, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I have a couple of great suggestions. One, don't sell your first 10 or 15. Give them to people that you trust and respect, and let them try them, and give them in exchange for honest feedback.
Right.
And then pricing on the next, after you've done that 10, 15 times and you've tweaked and modified stuff, I think you ought to start out at really the price of the materials and how much is it going to cost you to replace the materials.
Okay.
And how much money do you need to make really to start expanding your tools? So look at it that way. A lot of things that a lot of the stuff that hurt some of the wave of new American pipe makers or the new artisan pipe makers was they pushed their prices too fast, too furious, and they didn't have the quality or the credentials to really do that. And there's several I'll show you this. This is one of my favorites. Since you're in Japan, this is one of my favorite Smio Sato pipes.
Nice.
And I didn't Sato spent 35 or 40 years working first under his father and then at Tsuge, and then broke off on his own. And this pipe 10 years ago retailed for $700. Now I think it would be $1,200 or $1,300. So how does somebody that has only made pipes for 3, 4, 5 years justify charging $500 to $700 for a pipe when you've got a guy that's been making pipes, for 45 years, and he's only justifying charging $1,200? There's a certain amount of experience that went into making this pipe, and younger pipe makers don't have that experience yet.
Right.
It's also from a business standpoint for any new pipe maker. I feel, and this is my opinion, and you know what, this one's not out of left field. It's a whole lot easier to sell a pipe for $150 to $250 than it is to sell a pipe for $500 to $700. There's a whole lot more customers down there. Those customers don't expect as much of a high touch sales. They don't expect as many little details to be perfect. If you do a good handmade pipe in the $200 range, then you're competing with Peterson, and you're competing with with Savinelli in that price range. Well, as a handmade artisan, it's not hard to beat Peterson or Savinelli at that game.
Thank you very much. One question. I don't know. I know you love the lots, and recently, Chris Morgan at Bones has agreed to make a club pipe for the Visual Pipe Club, and we've decided that's the Lovat. I don't know if you have space in your house for one more pipe that we could pool some money together and send you a pipe for all your time and all your I don't know.
I appreciate it if it is way not necessary, and I always hate, especially with the podcast, I really do feel like it's an honor that you listen to my show for that amount of time, because, I'm taking up your time for an hour, and there's really nothing more than you listening that makes me happy. If a pipe were to show up here, I'd smoke it. I smoke every pipe here. There is not one unsmoked pipe in my smoking rotation or in my smoking collection.
We'd be happy. We'd be more than happy to send you a pipe, but you have to mention on the pipe show, on the podcast, at least once, I'm smoking a pipe from the Virtual Pipe Club.
Brian.
And it's making me look sexier than ever.
Brian, I'll send you out one. You guys don't have to pull together anything. I'll get your address and we'll get it shipped out to you when it comes in.
There it is. We have both of these Silicon Valley pipe smokers.
Chris, you snuck in, man.
I've been in here under CM. I don't know why it does not say my full name, but I've been kind of just listening. I'm running around trying to organize my garage. So you guys are my background radio show today.
I don't know if you heard, but Brian predicted that you're going to win World Surfing Champion for your age group.
I don't know if that's me. I think that's Grayson.
That was Grayson. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't surf.
Yeah, Chris lives too far from any kind of ocean.
Yeah, I have a dirty creek that I could surf in.
There you go. I have a dirty flooded street sometimes when it rains too much.
There you go.
I was just talking about that with my neighbor. But, that's the other thing that I've done with podcasts to set me apart from some other previous to me podcasts or social media things. And Chris can avow to this. I ask for the pipe makers to come on my show. Every once in a while, one of them will come to me and say, "Hey, I'd like to be on your show." But then I go back and validate them a little bit because I want to make sure that they are, like real, before I have them on the show. But I also never ask them for anything in exchange except for their time. And then I also feel a huge responsibility with a guest on the show that the guest comes off as good as possible. Because if I let the guest say something stupid and leave it in, or let the guest come off sounding bad and leave it in, that could be really damaging to somebody's young business or to their business at all. So the hardest part of my job with the Pipes Magazine radio show is doing those edits after I've got the guest recorded and making sure that everybody comes off sounding as real and as good as possible.
Yeah, you made me look great. Did an excellent job on mine, and I'm not all that interesting. And I especially wasn't that interesting then. So,
by the way, this is from the guy who kept the virtual pipe club going for 5 hours, which has never happened before. That's a real interesting guest. Let me tell you that right now.
That was a long time.
So, while I've got you on, Chris, maybe you and Brian together might have some input on this. So, Simon from London Calling, when you were commenting to Aaron about some suggestions about how to expand your business and what sort of next steps for young carvers, Simon says, because he's a new pipe maker, he says, I've seen that popular culture and being savvy on social media plays a big part. And I know, Brian with the podcast, and Chris, you've got a YouTube channel. And what would you say about that? Or do you have any additional input on that one?
Me or Brian?
No, you go first, Chris. I want to hear what you have to say. I know what I think.
Okay, well, without giving, I don't know if what I've done has been really all that spectacular. I mean, as far as marketing is going, I think a lot of it is just not overplaying your hand, both, socially and in a marketing standpoint. Like a lot of guys, and I'm not going to mention any names, but a lot of guys go out and they really hammer hard on what would be considered, not pressure selling, but almost like real flash and what do we call it? Shock and awe. A lot of shock and awe sort of marketing. And I think the vast majority of people don't like that. It becomes sort of a nuisance. Generally, I'm on sort of the leaner side when it comes to social media marketing. Like I will generally put out stuff like, here's what I have. Here's the new offer. I treat it like a sort of like a newsletter a little more in addition to my newsletter. And that's about it. But I think there's a fine line. I think I'm lacking quite a bit, whereas a lot of guys are going overboard. So in that sense, I think that it is a necessary tool right now for marketing your brand, your person. If you're a person of note that has opinions, Brian would be great for this if you have certain opinions. In fact, I've always thought that would be kind of cool for you to do sort of as an additional, this is my opinion sort of thing once a day. You put up a little blurb, and it could be inflammatory as hell, but it's fun.
I've been flamed out for doing that, but yeah.
But I mean, even scanning across the channels right now, if you say that you don't like chocolate ice cream, you get ripped apart. So it's kind of, if you're going to jump in, jump in. But I think it really has to be tuned to the brand, like I sell pipes. That's all I sell. I sell, my hand forged stuff, knives and stuff, but generally it's the pipes. That's the 98% of my business. So I'll just show my pipes, and I kind of come at it with a very diplomatic sort of point of view. Like I don't really, I don't side with anything. I am nonpartisan. I am not religious. We talked about this the last time. If you want to be in there to scoop up all the sales that you can, you need to come in and embrace literally everything while also embracing nothing. It's a really weird place to be because, just from, we'll just say as a political thing right now, you got a lot of brands that are making little remarks, and you'll start seeing that, damaging them whatever way it goes. So I know that probably goes past the question, but I don't think there's any real science or necessary skill involved in social media. I think it's reading your audience. I think that's 100% of it. What do they want?
I will add what Peter Stokkeby told me early on in my career when Peter took me under his wing. He told me 3 things. He said, thing number 1, don't overpromise. If you overpromise and underdeliver, they will remember that. Yep. Thing number 2, don't piss where you eat. Mm-hmm. Better known as, what he was telling me was, wink, wink, no drinking and partying and hitting on the wives, or, don't go getting out, don't be out drunk and stupid and doing stuff, because what you do at night affects what people think of you during the day. Yep. And I'd use the social media stuff now. I have religious views. I have political views. They're mine. You want them? Good luck. My social media output is the pipe world is happy. Here's pictures of me on a trip. Here's pictures of a little frog that we saw in our backyard. Here's a tree. Here's a shirt that I like, whatever. I want to put on social media right now that I have religious views. I get them from people that are experts or my family. I have political views. I get them from the news or from experts or from family. Go back to posting pictures of your food and your stupid cats and leave, and let's just all be happy. But the third thing that Peter Stokkeby told me was, when you're going out, show up with a sports coat and a tie on, because if you're underdressed, you can't pull a sports coat and a tie out of your arse. See, we're back to that Scottish stuff. You can, if you're overdressed, take the sports coat and the tie off.
Fine. It's arse. If you're in Scotland, it's arse.
And it's arse in Northern Ireland.
I'm more the Northern Irish Jewish. Yeah, so that's the thing. And in reality, now more than ever, the pipe shows were a great way for a pipe maker to meet and communicate with the customers. Social media now is the only way that you really have to do that. And if you're putting out a bad image of yourself, well, that's going to last to your pipes.
Hey, Chris, this is Todd again. Yeah, and I don't know if this is social media, and I don't. It's almost like a guerrilla marketing. Just as a result of being in this format for the last 6 months, I've bought pipes from carvers I have never heard from before, from Greece, from Indonesia. Phil's choofing on that Falcon. That's my next pipe. I'm going to buy that thing. It's funky looking. I own Chris, I own one of your pipes. I'm going to own another one very soon. You probably are going to wind up selling in excess of 30, 40 pipes here. And that's kind of under the radar marketing that I think, gets some traction. It's word of mouth.
we live on social media. The company that I run is an online service, you might say, and so social media is a mainstay of what we do. And I think pulling out a little bit from what Chris was talking about, the word that we use is authenticity. So when you show up on this platform, people have a pretty good bullshit detector. They have their radar for what's not real is pretty fine-tuned, especially nowadays when you got so much coming through the pipeline. They're sort of beginning to filter all of the ridiculous stuff out. So social media is an opportunity for you to present yourself. It doesn't even matter what your product is. We'll find out that Chris Morgan makes and sells pipes. But what is interesting and why the Virtual Pipe Club has, I think, been a success is because we have real people on who just present their authentic selves in a convivial environment. And then we go back and go, I like that dude. He was fun to talk to and listen to. Now I'm going to buy whatever he's got making.
I think that's a lot of it. Actually, I think we might have mentioned that in the last one when we were talking before at some point. Who knows within that 5 hours? But I think a lot of it is, well, selfishly, this is me. You know what I mean? And when I do these, same thing with when I did Brian's show, when I did the Paul podcast, that's just me. I'm mildly eccentric and kind of kooky with things, and I have my opinions, and I try to keep them as mild as possible for people to accept things. But a lot of it is who you are, and I found that most pipe makers are who they are, whether they're doing social media or you hang out with them in person. I've had quite a few come to my place, and I find out very quickly, as I do with most people, everyday life, I either like you or I don't like you. And I know that within the first couple minutes. And it's a rarity, even as a customer, to be surprised by that. And I think that's the same with a lot of people. And that's why I would suggest anyone who does have any sort of business, these little gnats that are everywhere, you bring yourself, and don't be, business Joe Schmo, and then be social Joe Schmo, and then be, and it doesn't work. It's a lot of effort. It's exhausting. And I've had to do that.
You don't want to be another Todd Johnson. Oh, did I say that out loud?
I'm not going to even bite. I'm not going to even bite because it's
on YouTube. Never mind. I served that up and you bit.
Nope.
Well, this is the question. Like Aaron had a terrific question, because there are a lot of people now who are curious about making pipes, and for a variety of reasons. I want to do it as a business, or I want to do it as an artist, or whatever. And when you're first starting out, there is this temptation to show up and, well, I'm going to be, one of those. I'm going to be just like one of the top pipe carvers in the world, so I can charge $1,000 for a pipe, and I'm going to, put on that act. And that is the death of your brand. Don't put on an act. Just be yourself.
Let me tell you all right now, there is not one of these top-ranked pipe makers that is driving a Mercedes and living in a big mansion and has a beach house and has a private jet. Not one of them. None of them.
No.
None. They're all dirt poor. They're all working, and they enjoy what they do. Sorry, Chris, I don't know if you're dirt poor. Well, you've got guys around you, so you might have.
I am where I live. I'm dirt poor. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in California, unless you're $1 million a year.
Chris inherited his money.
I agree with Brian 100% on that, because there was a common misconception that, oh man, you sell pipes for, and specifically with me, I can't talk on anyone else, but specifically with me, there was this sort of thought of, whoa, Chris he just sold $1,000 pipe, and you see that once, you see it one time, on eBay or whatever, someone talked and whatever, and you think, oh, he's probably rolling in dough. He probably has, like Brian said, a beach house and all this. No. There may be one or two very, very blessed pipe makers. I would venture to say, to piggyback on what Brian said before with Jeff Grasick, Jeff is probably one of the most successful U.S. pipe makers. And he does not live like high on the hog. He has a nice home. He lives in a very nice area. His family doesn't starve. And that is pretty much all you can ask for in any business, really, right now, especially. But he's grown that over many, many years, and he's worked very hard to attain it. And the very minute amount of conversation that we had many years ago, a lot of what he said has stuck with me. It hasn't helped me personally in my business because I did kind of veer off into a different direction with my work. But as far as I'm concerned, Jeff's top of the pyramid. I mean, he is living the pipe maker dream. Him and let's say like Eltang. You know what I mean? And that's how I see it. The embodiment of success in this business is not what everyone thinks it is. It's very, very hard. For a lot of us, it was very, very scraping the bottom of the bucket for years. I made almost nothing for 5 years because everything went back into the business. I mean, literally almost nothing. And you're not poor if you're a hard worker, but you're definitely not like going to Cancun every summer and spending a bunch of cash. It's lonely, and it's kind of hard work because you have to protect yourself from other people who want to steal ideas, or there's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of infighting in that area where people conversate, and there's a lot of friendships too. So I mean, it's just like any other business, but it is definitely not a lucrative business to be in. I mean, you can sell hot dogs. If you took like 10 grand, you bought a hot dog cart, I guarantee you'd make more money on the corner of some place in Chicago than you would make making pipes.
I'll tell you guys two things. One, Chris is right. It's very lonely, and the pipe makers that are really good at working alone all the time sometimes are not really good at being around the public and come off really bad when they're in public. So that's a double-edged sword. But at the same time, I had a conversation privately with JT Cook that I'm okay saying in public because there's only the internet listening, and the Russians. I like vodka. I had a conversation with JT Cook in about 2002 or 3. He was making pipes and selling them for $300 to $350, $400 each. I could buy every pipe I could get from him and turn around and put them on eBay and make $200, $300 because his pipes were that hot. We did the math, and he was making about 100 to 110 pipes a year. Total output, maybe, total income, maybe $38,000 a year, minus materials, minus wear and tear on machinery, minus everything. He was netting about $18,000 a year, and then had to pay for his own health insurance out of that. So he would have been better off working a full-time job at a 7-Eleven with benefits and worked less than he would working 6 days a week as a pipe maker.
Yeah.
So we figured out how much he needed to live on to make money and be able to afford a few things, like food and health insurance. And that's how he got to his pricing of his base pipe. His base price pipe is $750. Did it affect his sales at all? Not one bit whatsoever. And if you look at his estate pipes, they still sell in the $600 range after you smoke the heck out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So pipe making is like being a musician. There's only 1% of musicians that are actually making a living as a musician. The other 99% are doing it because they love it. And you've got to do it because that's what you love. Otherwise, start a pipe podcast. You'll make more money and you'll work less.
Yeah. And furthermore, there is that 15 minutes of fame that you see in musicians' lives too, where a pipe maker could be really, really hot for 2 years and just be killing it. And then they just drift off into nowhere. I mean, a great example, and I only mention it because he's a friend of mine. What do you call a friend that you haven't talked to in years?
Most of mine.
Yeah, Marko Balkovic is a great example I always use of someone who occupied the perfect area. There's a few other guys that I'm not going to name right now that do that currently. I don't want to screw things up for him, but Mark was crushing it. He sold every pipe he made. He had a 3-year wait list at one point, and he was freaking him out. Like, just the popularity of his work. I'm not saying his stuff was super high end. It was pretty good. It was a good at the time. It was a very good handmade pipe to buy, and his thing was pokers for the longest time. You know, the whole poker craze that hit, and he could not fulfill the orders that were placed. It would never happen. So he changed up his entire life. He would work 2 shifts a day. So he'd work a night shift for like 6 hours, he'd work a day shift for 6 hours, and then sleep in between. And it wore him out to the point where he had to leave the business. And he went back to another business because it's so hard to maintain that. And for a lot of people, it's crippling. For me in the handmade market, I never really had that issue. I would do 40 to 70 pipes a year, and somehow I made it work. They were not the highest end pipes. Some of them were very nice, you know, but I never occupied that rarefied air that, you know, JT's in or Gracek's in or any of these guys that are like consistently sold out. But it's not easy. Like I said last time, I have a lot more fun selling a lot of $39 pipes that I know are good pipes. They're not great pipes. They are a pipe, and that's it. There's no more, no less. It's a tool. And I get to meet all these great people and have cool conversations. And I never got to do that when I was selling expensive pipes.
Do you think you guys think it's a bit of a geographical thing whenever you're considering for the making of pipes? Because I live in Northern Ireland. I'm 100 miles away from Peterson's shop down south, but because they've existed for so long and they've got a name for themselves, of course, you know, they don't have to do too much in terms of social media and such, like to try and get themselves a little bit more. But here, same as over in mainland England, the amount of pipe smokers that you would have is pretty much people in their 80s about to kick the bucket. And the rest of us, like the Scots lad that's in here as well, we're on the younger side of it. But if you work with wood in any way, shape or form, you have the likes of IKEA over here now that makes really cheap, nasty, horrible stuff. You know, it's chipwood and all that kind of malarkey. And people are always going to go for what they see as cheap and would prefer to buy several times over a lifetime than buy once and get something that would last. Same way with pipes. But do you guys think, you know, America seems to have an extremely large smokers market when it comes to pipes? It's one of the things that you see the most if you're over here in the UK and you're seeing what's happening over there. But for us lot, at least anyway, die and breed. And I suppose just kind of curious if you think because you live in an area where pipe smoking is maybe considered acceptable and normal, that you had a much better sort of baseline and foundation to start on compared to those of us woodworkers that will, you know, do pipe making once in a while, but to, you know, try and make yourself look, say, acceptable, you know, to the world. You need to sell a few home first.
I will chime in and say that first of all, I started to see the pipe and pipe tobacco market started to switch, and I use the Starbucks example. About 10 to 15 years ago, the market went from one family drinking a pot of Maxwell House coffee a day, making a pot of coffee in the morning, and everybody drank that whole pot, to each person drinking one really good cup of coffee. So it became what I was coining, and it wasn't me. I ripped this off from somebody somewhere that was way smarter than me, which isn't hard to find. Sometimes when I'm in a room by myself, that's the only time I can't find anybody smarter than me. But it went from a low margin, high volume market to a high margin, low volume. So on the pipe tobacco side of the world, which I primarily was, we had to tweak it to making a really good 50-gram tin product away from making a moderately good 1-pound bag product, and try to figure out how to make the same amount of profit off of that 50-gram item. And this is really inside baseball. But what has happened is, and I don't know Northern Ireland's market that well, but I will say that you do not have the wonderful weather that we have here in North Carolina, or that the Silicon Valley Pipe Club there has, of 2 weeks of summer, 2 weeks of winter, and 48 weeks of it's fall all day, all the time. The rest of especially in Europe where the weather is, Europe's a great place to go if you don't like weather. It's terrible all the time. But here in North Carolina, I can go outside and smoke my pipe maybe 9-10 months out of the year. So you do get a higher occurrence of pipe and cigar smoking going on. In houses where men aren't men and their wives tell them to go outside. My house, I'm indoors here. See, inside, look, air conditioning, air cleaner right over that part of my head right there. I'm a real man. I told my wife, damn it, I'm smoking inside. And she said, yeah, you are in your office upstairs, and don't come down here with that nasty thing. But the climate weighs a lot into it. And the other thing that has happened again is we have pipe smokers that smoke their pipe 2 or 3 times a week versus 4 or 5 times a day. So you don't see them that much because they're at home smoking their pipe in their private little pipe smoking room. They're not walking down the street. God knows, you can't smoke in a pub in the UK. If that's not enough to separate and Brexit, and Scotland needs to go back and leave the UK just so she can smoke in a pub again, I'd do it right there. Because smoking in a British pub but you can't do it.
I think we also tend, as Americans, to sort of reinvent. It's sort of like the hipster theory. Like, not that pipes are specifically hipster on their own, but we tend to reinvent the old trades, but in a new way, and then really glamorize them. Whereas I would say my family's actually from down Northern Ireland, and I noticed that a lot of the stuff there, it's a tool still, and as far as like Peterson being Peterson for you would be, the regional choice. Like that's what you smoke. Whereas in the US, I would say, if you use the same metrics, you would say Missouri Meerschaum is what you would smoke here. It's sort of like the stereotypical thing. We also, I don't know, demographics have a whole lot to do with it, but we also went through sort of a boom, as did Russia, as did China. A lot of Eastern Europeans are seeing a small jump right now in their pricing, but not anywhere near that it was, 5, 10, 15 years ago. I guess my best example would be if we go by a regional system, Indonesia, Malaysia are probably some of the hottest trend markets on the planet right now, no matter what it is. If you're really into denim, there's more collectors and wearers of vintage denim in Southeast Asia than anywhere on the planet. If you're into small displacement motorcycles, like actual, bobbers and stuff, Southeast Asia. It changes and it depends on where you live. I don't know if that fully answers the question. I don't know if I fully understood the question, but
it's close.
I kind of equate it with it parallels the foodie movement. The way we ate 15 years ago, we've upped the game. Things that we would have put on our table 15 years ago, to use Brian's phrase, the elitist in us, kind of snobbish. For me, it's the same with pipes. It's kind of a boutique. I own Petersons. I've got a couple of Beltangs. I've got a couple of Todd Johnsons. I've got one Chris Morgan. But I've also picked up, can I name names?
You just did. Too late.
Oh, yeah.
I'd throw those Todd Johnsons away, though.
Okay. I paid too much for them. The Llanos Caquinos, man, fantastic pipe. Abdul Karim, my only one, that Algerian flower briar. For a pittance, I get this fantastic one-of-a-kind pipe. Not that I need the pipe, but it should. And these are pipe makers that, to me, I'd never heard of them before. Sorry about that, Chris. But because I'm on here and I got introduced to it, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing for those of you in Europe, I've done the demographics before because when I worked for Peter Stokeby International, I was in charge of all the pipe tobacco sales for the United States. And at that time, the company that was called Orlik, which is now part of Scandinavian Tobacco, they had 7 sales reps that took care of the pipe tobacco for Denmark. Denmark is a country the same size as New Jersey and half the population. I was one person taking care of the entire United States, which is bigger than the European Union. And size-wise, the flight from Dublin to Moscow is a little shorter than the flight from New York to Los Angeles. So we are a big-ass, wide country full of a bunch of people that like to, well, as Mike McNeil would say, there's a lot of poor people around and all they like to do is have sex and make babies. But yeah, you want to do a virtual pipe club that'll go on longer than 5 hours, get Mike McNeil on, ask him one question, and 3 hours later ask the second one. But that's the difference between Europe and the United States. We are an entire continent of a country compared to what you guys have, regional areas and difficulties. And I agree with Chris, because there's no American that really gets excited over drinking a Budweiser, but I know Europeans that would come over here and go, oh, all I want to do is drink Budweiser. We used to have Japanese exchange students, and the teachers that would come over, all they wanted to come over here and drink was Jack Daniels. And they go nuts over Jack Daniels because it was an American thing and it was cool. It was John Wayne. And we would sit there and go, it's cheap shit. Really? You want that? Come on.
Belch accelerant.
Yeah.
I'm going to bump in here real quick because once again, this is a wonderful conversation. I'm only drawing our attention to it because every week I try to make sure that nobody gets in trouble with their spouses or their families by me taking them away from that while we're having the Pipe Club meeting. I've got to do that myself and jump back into my family. Oliver says he's going to hang out for a little bit, though, so let the conversation keep going. I want to do a couple of real quick things before I go, though, and talking out to the people over there on Facebook and on YouTube. So this is who we are, the Virtual Pipe Club. It's guys who are fantastic to hang out with, and who show up. Like Chris just kind of popped in out of nowhere, and we get a chance to hang out with one of the premier American pipe carvers, and that's something that Todd keeps pointing out. We don't get a chance to do all that often, is meet people at the top of any particular industry. So the invitation is there that you come and join us every Saturday. We're here from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. No, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's only 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. when Chris Morgan shows up. 2 p.m.
Yeah, you got Brian here this time. It could go longer.
I think I'll come back tomorrow morning and we'll still be online there. So we want to invite you. It's free. There's nothing that you got to sign up for or hang out with. If you go over to Facebook, if you're on Facebook, we do have a page called the Virtual Pipe Club, and you can join in that group and get announcements and all that kind of stuff. Each week we have a guest speaker when we can. We've had Chris on before. Brian's been on now a couple times. Brian, I think we're going to have you on a third time.
October is pretty free, except for next week. But let me say this for the recording, and then I'll stop the recording. But thank you all for first of all letting me talk about things that I love, the Disney pipes, and answering your questions. And in all honesty, if you smoke a pipe and you smoke tobacco in it, you're a friend of mine. I don't care what kind of pipe it is. I don't care what kind of tobacco it is. I don't care if it's fajita tobacco in a, whatever. You're okay with me as long as you enjoy what you smoke. And don't let anybody tell you what you need to smoke. Smoke what you like. Try different ideas. Try different things. And listen in forums and groups like this to different ideas and perspectives. And that's the wonderful part of pipe smoking is I've been going to pipe shows, for 20 years straight and been involved in it, and I still hear new things all the time, and I get new ideas, and I try stuff. But again, thanks for having me. Even more important, thanks for looking at my face, which, I've said often is the face that launched 1,000 lunches. And this is usually right after everybody's lunch, and I didn't see anybody throw up. So that's pretty good.
You got a good radio face, Brian.
I do. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. The Disney pipe thing was fantastic. I was so excited to see your collection and some of the things that you took the time to share with us. But
Mickey Mouse cigarettes.
Not cigarettes. I'm going on a hunt now. I'm telling you, it's now my new mission to find a Mickey Mouse cigarette.
And this show will air a week from Tuesday with edited down with some of your questions and stuff, and I'll trim that down to about 40 some odd minutes. So.
Fantastic. So you guys, you're famous. You will be very soon. As I said, I'm not shutting the stream off. You guys are welcome to hang out. I love you very much. Stay safe, wash your hands, and I will see you guys next week. Oliver's going to hang out and keep it going.